Hello, Abigail here with the Tarotscopes for Pisces season, Libra sun, moon, and rising. My Libras, we are in quite a season. This Pisces season is going to be something special for sure. We have some really intense things happening. I do have a video of this that kind of just talks about this in general, but I want to talk about kind of specifically what it means for you. Mars is going to be stationing direct on the 23rd of February, 5 days after we enter Pisces season. So, bright side, we are starting off, me and my tummy problems always coming in to play when I record. So we're starting off with something hopeful and much needed. The Mars retrograde started on the 6th of December. We have been in it for a minute now, and I think we're all feeling pretty beleaguered. Um, Regardless of where Mars is in our chart and of where our Mars placements are, it has been a lot. So that is bright side. We are going to have the post shadow season, which lasts, several months. So we will be revisiting stuff, but at least we're moving ahead. Then we move to the 27th. We have that new moon in Pisces. This is kind of the setup for that full moon in Virgo on the 14th of March. So, this is a great moon to really just ground and center and get in touch with our desires so that as we head into the chaos of eclipse season, we at least have some clarity around where we would like to be, regardless of what the twister of eclipse season does, where it throws us. We have some kind of guide or direction. Then we have Venus stationing retrograde on the 1st of March. This is going to be intense. Venus is your ruler. It's also starting off in the opposing sign of Aries and in detriment. This is pivotal for everyone. Check where Aries and Libra are in your chart. Check where Pisces is. Check where Virgo is. These are going to be hot spots this season because Venus is going to retrograde back into Pisces. So all of that is being lit up by that retrograde. Then we have Mercury entering Aries, that total Virgo eclipse, which is a doozy. I'll just say it now. It is going to be a lot. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of astrological happenings. Nothing to doom and gloom about, but it is going to be intense, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Then we have Mercury stationing retrograde the day after. The ruler of that lunation will be stationing as it happens. So that will also add this multi-level of complexity and paying, obviously we're not there yet, but it's going to be important to pay attention to those eclipses in Virgo season. And it's important to note that we have 3 lunations Virgo season, a eclipse-free new moon at 0 degrees, a mid-Pisces eclipse, and another Virgo new moon eclipse. So I know it seems way off, but it's just tuck that away. And then Mercury retrograde, and then we head into Aries season on the 20th. So much happening. This is the final, season of the zodiac. We're going to have the official beginning of kind of what I would consider the natural new year happening. So if you haven't felt like doing much, there's a reason for that. Middle of Capricorn season doesn't really do much for a lot of us. It does have an energy of its own because that's what happens when you give something importance, but it's not what I would call invigorating or helpful for new things. Even the beginning of Capricorn season would be better than the middle. I'll get off my Gregorian calendar shtick. But the cards have a lot to say about this, and I do think that your Oracle card is really interesting. It's the Lost Oracle by Fiona Horn, and it's enchantment. Use your words consciously, which I think is interesting considering the fact that Mercury will be retrograde, and also, Venus will be, I don't know why I'm losing words. Venus will be retrograde as well. You're going to be undergoing a lot of pressure. You're going to be in a kind of a state of heightened awareness. And I think it's important for you, especially as an air sign, to really focus on the importance of your words and to understand that as an air sign, you have great power to put out energy into the world. So in your manifestations, in your dreams, in your communication, to just be aware of how much power you have and how much the things you say affect people. I think as a Venus ruled air sign, a lot of times people can focus on, appearance and charisma, and oftentimes language is left out of it. But a lot of pardon me, itching my eye. A lot of Libras I know are very good with words in specific situations. You may not be the best in a moment where you're emotionally upset. But when it comes to communicating thoughts and ideas and getting other people to accept and to kind of integrate your beliefs, you're very good at it. You have a lot of talents when it comes to convincing and to shifting people's perspective, and that's going to come into play this season. It's also a reminder that being conscious with your words is also knowing when not to talk, knowing when to keep things to yourself. And I think there's going to be a lot going on, and maybe holding your cards a little close to your chest, especially when it comes to communication, might benefit you. So keep that in mind. And I also think with the idea of enchantment, I think there's a lot of power in this season for you. There's something that you can find in this season that maybe has been buried or hidden for a while, some ancient tome filled with the mysteries of the universe, which could be literally as simple as you just, learning a new skill or unlocking some gift or talent or understanding that had remained hidden for a long time. And we move right in with the Ace of Swords, which I think interesting since we're talking about words. This is a lot about communication and thoughts and the part of belief where we communicate those beliefs and digest them and internalize them or externalize them. I think there's a new way to perceive your own personal power in this season. I think it would behoove you to expand in your knowledge of self, to pay attention to your patterns, your needs, your desires. If you are interested in astrology, or have some, adept qualities, like you've already built some strength in reading astrological charts, I would go and revisit your chart. I would touch up those skills. And if you haven't yet learned something like that, maybe learn a little bit about astrology this season. I think it's going to help you interpret parts of yourself that maybe you didn't before, and give yourself some new insight into who you are and what you want. A lot of times I find this with Cancer risings and with Libra risings, um, and also with risings that have you at in the 10th house, in a really 10th and 11th houses. People overtly rely on you for a lot of things in an unspoken way. They expect you to do a lot for them, or at least to have capacity to do a lot. They're like, oh, you're really easygoing or really good with people or really chill. I think I'm going to overload you with a bunch of shit you don't want. In this season, I think it's time to start, shifting that perception that other people have of you and saying no. You're like, what does the Ace of Swords have about saying no? When you're overburdening yourself with other people's problems, the Ace of Swords is a no. That's what I'll say. And then we move to the Eight of Swords. There is a lot going on in this season, and eclipses and the energy leading up to eclipses can really lead to a sense of helplessness, can really lead to feeling as though we have no control and we're at sea. I think the important thing to remind you is that when you're a bug on your back, or when you are blinded by emotion or situations, or just an over intellectualization of your surroundings, you can miss the part where you can get away. You can miss the part where you have power and control. And it really also depends on like where your placements are in your chart. But if you have some rough placements in your astrological chart, there can be a sense of helplessness that Libras can suffer from. It's also the fact that you're constantly trying to balance things. And sometimes you're put in positions where you're forced to balance shit. And instead of being like, how do I not balance shit? You're like, oh, I can balance this. And that's not the point. You don't want to you don't want to balance those things. And I probably shouldn't. I'm sure YouTube doesn't appreciate me using those words, but I'm not monetized anyways. Me with my, I think, 10 to 15 followers. But I am manifesting that number to grow. So the sky is the limit. So allow yourself to understand that you don't have full understanding of the situation, that you aren't able to see things clearly this eclipse season, and that you're not as trapped as you feel. And acknowledging that doesn't mean that you now have to find some way to escape the situation you're in. I think the eclipses will release that for you, but you're not really going to feel it till we're on the other side in Aries season, just so you know. It's not fun. It's not pleasant or, encouraging in this moment. But in those moments of feeling trapped, know that you're not, but also know that you don't have to be responsible for shifting that energy now. And that is energy, that kind of entrapment might be what you need to sit down and get honest with what you want and to get real with what are your desires and what are other people's desires and what are your expectations and what are other people's expectations and how do those expectations influence your expectations. Really looking at your responsibility in this moment. You can only, especially when it comes to the magic of free will, you can only be responsible for yourself. You can only truly plumb the depths of self. So start to take self responsibility very seriously and start to release responsibility for others. Just displace that with self responsibility. And I'm not saying that you're irresponsible, but taking on other people's issues, problems, struggles, what have you, needs to stop so that you can see clearly what you want for yourself and you can communicate clearly what you desire for yourself. This is a very sword heavy spread. But now we have the Nine of Swords. Yes, this season is going to be overwhelming. You're going to have a lot of hopes and fears and concerns and worries, and you are not going to be able to balance in Pisces season. You're going to feel very dissolved, which is a Piscean theme and trait. And you are going to be upset about it, and it's going to cause real worry and concern. And I want you to know that and to be aware. But kind of with the Eight of Swords, it's a place you're going to have to live in for a bit, but not forever. So honor your fears and concerns. Be curious about them. Ask yourself, where do these stem from? How can I meet myself where I am in this moment without pressuring myself to move on or be better or, balance in a moment where balance is just not possible. Now, maybe you can find balance on an internal level. We haven't drawn temperance in this spread, but it does feel very temperance in this moment. How can you can't balance the external issues, but you can find balance internally. So what can you balance? What can you manage in a moment like Nine of Swords where fear and worry are just larger than life and it feels so impossible to get your hands on them, and also we have this progression of this Eight of Swords and this Nine of Swords, this feeling of entrapment leading to disenfranchisement, leading to feeling as though you're losing yourself, leading to this sense of, failure and what if I'm never able to be more than just this moment. It's okay to feel like you are less than capable in this moment. It's not your job to be competent in every twist and turn of your life. You don't have power over the circumstances you are being put in, but you do have power over who you are and what you desire and your belief in the trueness of your intentions and the trueness of your dreams and hopes that maybe in this moment you can't really see being fulfilled with these two cards. So yeah, it's going to be a lot. And then we have the Four of Cups, which can be a card of disassociation. It can be a card of escapism and of missing the point because we don't want the point. We just don't want to deal with it. I don't think in this moment it is bad to disassociate. I think finding coping mechanisms that have worked for you in the past, even if they're not healthy long term, a little return to them wouldn't be bad. If there's a game you used to game all the time, or if you tend to scroll on your phone and you're really like, I don't want to do that anymore, maybe that's an Aries season thing to face. Maybe in this season you just need to disassociate. You just need to allow yourself to just exist in the best way you know how in this moment. Doesn't mean you have to rely on these coping mechanisms forever. And obviously, we want to use coping mechanisms that aren't harmful to others and ourselves, in the moment. Like, obviously, if we do this long term, maybe we will miss out on things. But in this season, finding ways to cope and survive is not a bad thing. I think another meaning we can take from this card is this is also the card of messages from spirit and paying attention and being aware that spirit is all around us, that the universe is, co-creating even when it feels as though it's, ripping us apart. And maybe the universe isn't sending us a message, but maybe our guides are. Maybe there's an ancestor who wants to bring you comfort and, maybe they aren't able to get us out of this moment or to make us feel, better or to remove all of these swords from our lives, but they want to come and sit with you in that circle of swords, in that Eight of Swords moment, in that Nine of Swords moment. An ancestor or a spirit guide wants to come and take your hand. And I think you should be aware that that's a possibility and to let them come support you in that moment when that time comes. And to not discount the power of things you cannot see and the energy of things that are past. And to, you don't have to be like anal about it or like obsessed with awareness, but to open yourself up with more than just what you can see in this moment and to believe that, things are possible beyond the limits of our own perception and desire and understanding. And it is not a personal failing to not see them or feel them or understand them in this moment. However, that knowledge will come in handy later. And then last but not least, which I think is a good card to finish out this reading and also to pair up with the Four of Cups, we have the Mother of Cups. This season is about you stepping into your emotional body and making, not friends, making some peace with your emotional body and with your emotional needs. Mars and Cancer, if you are Libra rising in the 10th house, tough stuff. It's tough anywhere in the chart, but in that visible place, it's just very overwhelming, and check where Mars is in Cancer in your chart, whether you're a Libra rising or a Libra sun or moon or have a Libra stellium. But this is about coming home to self and accepting, for better or worse, the different parts of self and knowing that balance isn't always holding two binaries and standing in the middle. Balance is sometimes recognizing that binaries don't exist and are constantly in flow, and that balance, not sometimes, it's kind of always, and that balance is not a point or a destination, it is a process. You don't need to constantly be torn between two diametrically opposed things. You can swim in an ocean between different polarities and fluidly through different forms and cycles and still find balance and find your way home. It is just this acceptance of fluidity and, in a way, embracing the natural world and embracing grayness as a form of balance. The knowledge that not everything is measurable or weighable or able to be balanced, and that knowledge and that embracing of that knowledge is a form of balance in and of itself. And maybe that type of balance is healthier than scales. Maybe an infinity river is healthier than holding two things on opposing ends of a spectrum. And maybe that spectrum is made up. So I invite you in this season to allow yourself to care for yourself in the ways that you know how to care for yourself, to also know that this is not forever. All of your cards are minor arcana cards. It can be tempting to constantly want these big, impactful moments because it feels like it makes things valuable. But the beauty of minor arcana cards is that you don't have to live here forever. This is a moment. This is a lesson in time for this moment. And yeah, maybe it will extend longer if we don't quite get all the lessons. But also maybe you can just let this be what it is because it's not forever. Because it is just this moment. And it kind of goes back to our oracle card enchantment, using your words consciously. Use your words consciously, but also know that you can be conscious and not afraid of making mistakes. Consciousness is awareness, not doing things right. my final word to you. It's not about doing things right. It's about finding a way to make peace with and to flow with the energy at hand and the situation you've been given. All right, my loves, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. Of course, you can find me on other platforms, my website, Instagram, TikTok, all under the same handle, The Keen Witch. Please like and subscribe. It deeply makes my day. And I wish you a really blessed Pisces season. It's not going to be simple or easy, but it is going to be essential for your growth and your comfort within yourself. I love you all.